Good morning, grandkids. This morning I'm going to start reading Chapter 8 of The Phantom in the Woods. When Tucker and his dad got back home that night, really late, Mom was waiting up for them, sitting at the kitchen table. "Honey, you shouldn't have waited up," Dad said. "It's really late." "I couldn't sleep knowing what's going on. I was just too frightened for the two of you," Mom said. I gave Mom a hug and sat down. Dad did the same, and we started telling her about what happened. Mom finally said, "You mean someone actually fired a rifle at you?" "Well," Dad said, "us were at the apparition." Dad and I looked at each other, then Dad went on, "We're going back up there in the morning. I'd feel safer in the daylight. If anything happens again, I'm going to get some more men with us before we go up again. I know you're worried, but I feel that now we have to get to the bottom of this, find out what that girl wants. I'm sure by now that it's a girl, and also find out who fired that shot at us. I think you need to both get to bed, or you won't either one feel like doing anything tomorrow," Mom said. As I was sprawled out in bed in my typical reverie style, my legs crossed and my arms up with my hands behind my head, Razor came sneaking around the door, which I had left open an inch or two. He jumped up on the bed and snuggled down beside me. I dropped one hand down and was stroking his head, but my thoughts were still on what had happened. If this apparition that was trying to take the form of a girl was the same one who went missing, Mr. Connor's daughter, Audrey, then she isn't missing. She's dead. If that's her trying to lead us up the mountain, she wants us to find her body. I finally turned over, slipping my arm across Razor, and let my eyes slowly shut as I drifted off to sleep. The woods was dark and the trees gnarly and bare of leaves, sinister looking. I was slipping through the trunks, trying to keep out of sight of a man, also slipping cautiously toward me. He had on a dark wool coat with a dark wool cap pulled low over his face. I could hardly make him out when suddenly I heard a loud explosion and saw the fiery blast of gunshot. I was so scared I couldn't move. In slow motion, I saw a bullet coming at me. Hit me in the chest. I was falling, everything getting lighter around me. I sat straight up in the bed, gasping. Razor was awake and had pounced onto my chest, letting me know that he wanted to go out. I sat there looking at him in a daze. Finally, I realized I was in my room and what was really going on. I got up and threw some clothes on and headed for my door. Razor went through, and I went through the kitchen and I let him out the back door. Then Champ came padding in, and about that time Dad came into the kitchen, scratching his jaw and yawning. "What are you boys doing up so early?" he asked. "Couldn't sleep," we both said at the same time and looked at each other in surprise, then laughed. "Well, in my case, Razor was on my bed and let me know he wanted to go out," I said. "In my case," Champ grinned, "I heard Razor barking." "Well, I guess we all got woke up by Razor." Dad turned and looked as he came scampering in as I opened the back door. Bad dog. But he reached down and patted him on the head, then looked at me. "You ready to go, Tuck?" Guess I am, I said. After the nightmare I had, I don't know if I want to go back up there or not, I said. We started putting our boots and coats on, and Dad poured us 2 thermoses of coffee to take with us. Champ said, "Where are you going? I want to go." "We're going to work," Dad said. "You can't go." "Why?" Champ whined. "I want to go." "I said no," Dad snapped at him. "Sorry, Champ. I'm tired. Guess I didn't get enough sleep last night." And Dad gave Champ a hug. "But no, you can't go with us. Help your mom today." We both turned toward the door and left Champ pouting behind. Halfway up the trail, we stopped and was sipping our coffee, and I was telling Dad about the nightmare that I had when Razor thankfully woke me up. I didn't have any idea who the man might be, but it was only a dream. About that time, as we started up the trail again, the apparition showed up. I hadn't expected her to be with us this morning. Dad and I looked at each other surprised. She was more noticeable as a girl now, and actually, she really did look like Audrey. Dad and I were both shocked. Now we knew that she hadn't just left town, and that something was really wrong. She motioned for us to follow and turned up the trail. I looked out into the woods to see if anyone was following us this time of day, then turned and caught up behind Dad. "She must just hang around in the woods waiting for us to show up," Dad said. Soon she turned off the trail onto a path that angled off of it, but still heading upward. After some time had passed, I could finally see through the thinning of the trees. Up ahead, closer to the top of the hill, I could see the remains of that cabin. When it had burned down, it had totally collapsed. It was just burned boards here and there on the ground, with a few boards of a partial wall. But that was all I could see from down here. It was still a mile or so up to where the rubble was at. Dad and I had stopped again and drank some more hot coffee. The ghostly girl patiently waited. My dad and I were drinking and staring out into what little woods there was up this high when Dad said in almost a whisper, "Get down, son, and don't make a sound." He dropped down with me. There is a man farther back in the thicker part of the trees. He's wearing dark clothing, but I only caught a quick glimpse of him. It looked like he didn't know we were here. He's also got a rifle. He could be just someone out here to hunt, but it could be whoever fired at us last night. We moved completely off the path, realizing that he was over and down on the other side of the trail. We hunkered behind a large rock, peeking around it until we saw him going on up past us on the trail. We then remembered the girl, and Dad said, "I wonder where she went, or if she disappeared again." We looked around but didn't see her. "I wonder if he's the same guy from last night, if he's headed for the cabin ruins also," I said. "Don't know," Dad said, "but let's keep moving up. But stay way over here, even off of the dirt path." We started up again, but keeping low and keeping that man in our sights. The ghostly girl was now nowhere to be seen. We were almost up to the burned-down cabin when the man in the woods over and down the other side spotted us. The trees were just getting too thinned out to hide. Just as I had looked down at him, I saw him raise his rifle up, pointed right at us. I yelled, "Dad," grabbing him and pulling him down with me. But the shot grazed my arm as we went down. "Dad, I've been hit. I knew it wasn't serious when I looked, but it hurt. Dad had dropped down and he crawled over to me. "Let me see it, son. How bad is it?" He was panting hard. I saw that there was blood running down out of the sleeve of my coat. He slipped my coat off and then eased the sleeve of my sweater off my arm to look at where the bullet went. We didn't hear any more shots fired, so maybe the man got scared and took off. There seemed to be quite a bit of blood, but it did look like the bullet didn't do anything but pierce the skin, the outside of my upper arm, from the back side to the front. Thank the Lord it came from that direction. If he'd been up farther and across from us, it probably would have went through my arm and into my chest, probably my heart. I looked up at Dad and almost shouted, "I could have been dead, Dad." "I know, son," he said gently. "I know." He was helping me up as he said, "Let's get you home and get this bandaged up and get some pain pills into you." We started back down the hill toward home and hoped that man wouldn't show up again before we got there. So that's the end of the story for today. So we'll have to see what's going to be happening next Friday. I hope they get this man before it's too late for somebody. So I will see you all next Friday, grandkids. Bye-bye for now.